The night on Cathara 4 was not kind to the living. Sand shifted in whispers across the dunes, carrying with it the scent of blood and the promise of death. The twin moons hung low and crimson in the sky, casting everything in shades of rust and shadow. This was hunting hour, when the apex predators emerged from their burrows to claim the desert as their domain. Ilara Wynn sat cross-legged in the center of a shallow crater, surrounded by 7 young Cathari cubs. Their chitinous plates gleamed dully in the moonlight, serrated tails curled protectively around their small bodies. They should have been terrified. By all logic, they should have been silent, hidden, praying to whatever gods their species believed in that the dune stalkers would pass them by. Instead, they listened to a story. "And then," Ilara said, her voice soft but steady, "the little rabbit looked the fox right in the eye and said, 'You may be faster and you may be stronger, but you'll never be cleverer.'" The smallest cub, Sarek, chittered with delight, his obsidian eyes wide with wonder. He pressed closer to Ilara's side, his small claws gripping the fabric of her environmental suit. "Did the rabbit escape?" he whispered, though his translator collar made the words sound like scraping stones. Ilara smiled, running her fingers gently over the ridge of his carapace. "What do you think?" A low rumble echoed across the dunes, a sound like grinding bones and ancient hunger. The cubs froze. Even Sarek went rigid against Ilara's side. That was the call of a dune stalker, and it was close. Too close. The other cubs looked at Ilara with eyes that held a question their young minds couldn't quite form. "Why aren't you afraid?" She met their gazes one by one, then continued the story. "The rabbit was afraid," she said quietly. "But being afraid and being brave aren't opposites. The rabbit knew the fox was coming. He could hear its paws on the ground, could smell its breath in the wind. But he also knew something the fox didn't." "What?" Sarek breathed. "That sometimes," Ilara said, "the scariest thing you can do to a predator is refuse to run." Another rumble, closer now. The sand around them began to tremble. Ilara could see the distinctive ripple pattern that meant something massive was moving beneath the surface. The dune stalker was circling them, testing, probing. It had caught their scent, warm flesh, and the chemical signature of fear that the cubs couldn't help but emit. The Cathari were not a warrior race. They were traders, scholars, philosophers. Their bodies had evolved armor not for battle, but for survival, to endure the harsh desert environment of their homeworld. Against a dune stalker, a creature that could swallow a full-grown Cathari whole and had reflexes faster than thought, they were helpless prey. But Ilara Wynn was human, and humans had been prey once, too, a very, very long time ago. "Miss Ilara," one of the older cubs whispered, "should we run?" "No," she said simply. "Keep listening. The story isn't finished." The sand erupted. A nightmare of chitin and teeth burst from the dune 20 meters away, its segmented body as thick as a cargo hauler, its mandibles dripping with digestive enzymes. The dune stalker reared up, tasting the air with sensory organs humans had no names for. Its compound eyes, hundreds of them, fixed on the small group in the crater. The cubs screamed. Sarek buried his face against Ilara's side, his whole body shaking. Ilara stood up slowly, deliberately. She placed herself between the predator and the cubs, her body language speaking a language older than words, older than species, older than civilization itself. "These are mine. You will not have them." The dune stalker tilted its massive head, confused. This small, soft creature should have been running, should have been screaming, should have been triggering every predator instinct evolution had carved into the stalker's genes over millions of years. Instead, Ilara Wynn reached into her pocket and pulled out a data pad. She tapped it twice, and a sound began to play, low, rhythmic, primal. A human heartbeat, amplified and slowed, mixed with frequencies that resonated in the subsonic range. She'd programmed it weeks ago after studying the stalker's auditory systems. The predator hesitated. The rabbit, Ilara continued, her voice cutting through the night, knew that foxes hunted by instinct, chase what runs, kill what fears. But the rabbit stood still. She took a step forward, and the fox didn't know what to do. The dune stalker's mandibles clattered, a threat display, but it didn't charge. Something in its primitive brainstem was receiving conflicting signals. This prey was too calm, too confident. The sounds it was making were all wrong. Was it a predator itself? Was it poisonous? Diseased? Ilara took another step, and another. The cubs watched in awe as the human woman walked steadily toward a creature that could end her life in an instant. But she moved with purpose, with certainty, with the bearing of something that had climbed its way up from the bottom of a food chain, far more vicious than anything Cathara 4 had ever produced. Earth had been a crucible. Its humans had been forged by predators with sharper teeth, faster reflexes, better camouflage. They had survived ice ages and plagues and each other. They had learned not just to endure fear, but to master it, weaponize it, transform it into something their enemies couldn't understand. Courage. The dune stalker backed away. Just half a meter, then a full meter. Its sensory organs retracted slightly, confused, uncertain. This didn't match its understanding of how hunts worked. Ilara stopped advancing. She held the predator's gaze for 3 long heartbeats, then slowly, deliberately, turned her back on it. She walked calmly back to the cubs, sat down, and pulled Sarek back into her lap. "The fox left," she said softly, picking up the story exactly where she'd left it. "And the rabbit went home to his family." The dune stalker lingered for another moment, then slipped beneath the sand and disappeared into the night, seeking easier prey. The cubs remained silent for several seconds, processing what they'd just witnessed. Then Sarek looked up at Ilara with eyes full of wonder and whispered, "Was that a human story?" Ilara smiled and brushed sand from his carapace. "That," she said gently, "was every human story. Now, shall I tell you another one?" And as the predators scoured the dunes around them, hunting, killing, dying according to the ancient laws of their world, a human woman read bedtime stories to 7 young cubs who would never forget the night they learned what it meant to be brave.